Hello.
Hi, Patrick. How are you today?
I will call our Rome Town Center Subcommittee meeting to order. To order at 12:30 p.m.
Hey, Bill.
And hello, Patrick.
Hello.
All right, so 12:30. Now we can go through and we can do a little bit of a roll call. So I'll start. I'm Lexi. I'm the zoning administrator.
You're next.
Oh,
Yes.
Tiffany Becky, CDA.
Diana Dilge, Plan Commission.
Heather Dalton, CDA.
Bill Capel, Plan Commission.
Lori Giamatti, Plan Commission Chairwoman. And this is your group today, so you have our full attention. You want to go on? She's going to go through our proper agenda, though.
Yes. So then next, we also have Patrick from Cardo with us today. And then I believe Baker will be joining us virtually as well at some point. Likely he's just running a little bit late because he's very busy. So then I will certify the posting of our meeting. So I certify that on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, the agenda for the Town of Rome Plan Commission Rome Town Center Subcommittee meeting for Thursday, January 30th, 2025 was posted at the following locations: Rome Town Hall, 2:44 p.m., Quick Trip LLC, 2:32 p.m., Nakusa for Edward State Bank, 2:37 p.m., posted on the Town of Rome website on 1/28/2025, and emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune on 1/28/2025. All right. And then can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as written.
Okay.
I'll second.
Perfect. We got a motion by Bill, second by Tiffany. Any discussion? Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. All right. So citizen comments. I did not receive any comments, and there are no members from the public here, so I will skip reading 5 and subpoint A. So let us move on to point 6, which is approving minutes from the January 23rd, 2025 subcommittee meeting. Sorry if I'm going fast. You guys can stop me if I am.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good. We can even go faster.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Perfect. Motion by Diana, second by Tiffany. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion will carry. Perfect. Now we'll go into point 7, which is review of the outline of the scope for the Rome Town Center Master Plan by Patrick from Cardo. So Patrick, this will be your time to shine.
Thank you. And nice to everybody. Meet everybody again. I can't, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I don't think your camera is on.
Let's see if I can fix that. Maybe I can.
If not, but just wanted to give you a heads up.
We're all mystery guests.
We are all mystery guests. Let's see.
Behind the curtain.
And we all dressed up just for you, so we all
We
look
did.
our Sunday best, no?
No, but we are all in blue-gray.
Yeah.
We are all in blue and gray.
Last time, everyone was in Up North Brewery, but I thought, wow, is that a clothier or is that a brewery?
I have clothing for every season now with Up North on it.
I felt left out. I gotta come and shop.
Yes, you do. We just got work shirts in today too.
Oh, we have Baker online. Hey,
Hey,
Baker.
How's it going?
All right, we're just trying to figure out our camera situation. Can you see us okay, or can you just hear us?
I cannot see you.
Yeah, our camera's on right now.
Okay. Well.
I can also just
While she's doing that, we can
talk to you about the
just.
proposal before.
Okay.
It's okay too.
Well, while she's working with the camera, maybe you could just start off and go through your proposal here with us, your proposed plan for moving forward with the master plan in the RTC. If there's any
Sure. I'll keep
specifics
it-
you want to point out or anything so just go ahead. It's your, like she said, your time to shine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll keep it brief because I know that way you want to ask questions. I'm sure there'll be revisions there. There always is. It's definitely a dialogue in the conversation. So please feel free to express your thoughts and feelings about it. So at its highest level, before we go into any details, it's really about 5, 10, 15 years down the road. you're enjoying a vibrant, mixed-use, walkable town center, right? That's the end goal, of course. That's what we want to get you to. That's the most important thing. So it's really about how we get there. And in the proposal, I call that 2 phases, right? Phase 1 is the envisioning process, which is relatively short, a matter of months. And then phase 2 is the long-term zoning and kind of the nitty-gritty and technical work of getting it zoned properly and working with developers and kind of seeing the vision to fruition. Does that make sense? Kind of 2 parts. And this is really kind of the mini step 1, or phase 1, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the proposal outlines a 4-month process, which could be maybe even a month shorter, to create a vision that's created with the town, the public, some stakeholder groups, to create excitement around a vision. You know, it won't be totally fleshed out, but it will be illustrative. It'll be a beautiful plan with, you know, showing where buildings are and trees and parks and that kind of thing, and potential development patterns. And then it'll render those through illustrations to show what the future could be. And it's intended to be transparent, and we would engage the community at the beginning and then at the end of the process, and create this vision moving forward. I know you all read it, so I don't want to take too much time talking about it, but any questions or high-level thoughts you wanted to discuss?
On the entire thing, or just what?
The entire thing, bits and pieces, you know, really any part.
I think it's pretty much, for myself personally, reading through it, it's pretty much what you had explained to us you would be doing. I think it's a very thorough process, and we're engaging people sooner rather than later, and we're looking forward to having you help us with that. And I like the fact that you have it laid out as well as you do. It's easy to follow, and that you address them separately. Phase 1 and phase 2, again, we realize there may be some overlap between phase 1 and 2 as far as some work that needs to get done, but you know, focusing on the use controls and those sorts of things in phase 2, that's really the town's responsibility once we get a plan all organized. So I think it's really helpful to see it all laid out like this.
Could you expound upon in step 2 explore section where you show that the drawings will not be diagrammatic but illustrative? Can you explain that in a little bit more detail, please?
Sure. So I'm going to be blunt here. There are a lot of planning documents that exist in the world that look at areas, and at the end of a long 7, 8, 9 month process, you have a map that has kind of bubble diagrams or nebulous kind of planning concepts like a health district, a wellness district, right? And it sits on a county or a city shelf for years, and nothing really comes of it. The difference between diagrammatic and illustrative is we'll say a building could be 15 feet from the sidewalk. It could be 4 stories. It would have parking exactly here. The curb cuts would be here. New streets would be X number of feet wide. It's literally drawing a future for the town center. Of course, it'll be built differently, you know, inevitably. But it's about putting together one possible literal interpretation of what the vision could be. Because your average person, you know, that lives in the town can actually read a drawing of a plan and understand renderings. They may not understand, you know, zoning maps or more bubbly diagrams that are kind of hard to wrap your head around if you're not an architect or an urban designer or a city planner, that kind of thing. So it's about being a little bit more specific. With the understanding it might change, and it will change, but it's trying to be something that's really more legible to the everyday person.
In backing up a little bit to 1.2,
Okay.
meeting with local developers, would those be developers that have showed interest in property in the RTC that we're kind of going back to and bringing them in, or just developers in general in this vicinity that we would be going to?
Probably developers that have expressed interest in the RTC.
Okay.
And usually that could be almost like a round table, you invite, whether that's 3 developers or 6, I don't know what the number is. But you invite them to a session and they all, we meet as a group. Because that way you can kind of hear all the voices in one place. It's a little bit more efficient. And then the second thing that does is you often find that when developers come together as a group, I know they're competitors, right? They're competing for maybe the same parcel sometimes, but they might have common concerns or constraints about development that make it more difficult to development, and it's kind of nice that they can kind of flush those out, because those are the things that eventually in your code you can address to make development easier on their end too.
I had a question about the level of detail for the final product. When we're getting into the final illustrations, do we need to have the actual type of shop and or retail store that we want? Or is it good enough to say retail space with living quarters above?
Exactly, it's at that level. So
Okay.
in the proposal, there's a few kind of renderings, I guess. There's one on the first page, and there's a couple on the third page.
Yeah,
So-
right.
So for example, third page, I mean, you all are in Wisconsin, you probably recognize where that is. We don't say exactly what's a hotel, what's an apartment, what's a store. It's about the overall kind of massing and vision for the area. But at the same time, you can see exactly where the buildings are, That's the kind of line we're walking.
Right.
You're also recommending 3 alternatives. Is there a specific reason for 3, or is that just what you found to be the most beneficial?
I've found that that's probably on the higher end, but people sometimes like that variety. To be totally frank with you all, I wrote in 3 with the intention that maybe you thought that might be too many. and we
Yes,
could-
I do.
Yeah,
I
it would be
do.
placed-
Just saying, I want to be very blunt with you.
Yeah.
Too many
I think
options for our group.
one good one might be enough.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Choices have been good, but then you get so amassed with things that you can't pick anything, and nothing gets
Exactly.
done again.
Right,
You
and
can't
I-
pick anything.
I don't want to create confusion, I just want to base it, like Baker said, a really good one would be absolutely perfect.
Yeah, a really good one. I think we're all on board. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I just think we've been down these paths so many different times that our hope is that this is going to be the time we actually get something done. So one
Okay.
really good one is,
I think so.
and I think we represent a broad enough group across the community, different age groups, different lifestyles, different businesses, that the ideas that we've already worked through, and Baker's been part of that, we all have pretty much the same idea, and that's why I felt very comfortable when they said they were picking you to work with, so,
Well, and the kickoff listening trip,
yes.
number one, and then having the community, the stakeholders and everyone else participate, I believe that'll formulate a really good one that will, I think, resonate with everyone in the community, is my
Sure.
opinion,
Mhm.
which most times people don't.
Well,
Especially my husband.
I love that. So I always prefer to do one really good one as opposed to 3 good ones. Saves time too on our end, so we can reduce the scope and we can make the process a little faster too. So
Excellent.
I do.
Even better.
You got a renounding even better. So,
Any other questions, thoughts? Go ahead.
In the review that you will be doing under 1.1, the review of the existing plans, can you kind of give me an idea of what you are going to garner from that review that will assist you in your continuing development of this master plan?
Of course. I think it's always a little funny. It's really the end goal is to not stick my foot in my mouth and say or do something, the groundwork has been laid for something else. It's really just getting to know the lay. It's just doing your due diligence, you know?
Well, and I think, you know, look, we've done the pillar, you know, the Sam's work. Like, we have a lot of that well organized by this committee, in my opinion, Lori and the rest of the team there. I think, you know, those 15 pillars we worked on and sort of analyzing the previous reports that have been put together, you know, I think we can, you know, that could be pretty concise, and I think we've already done a good job of narrowing that to the parts that we want to keep, right? I mean, do you guys feel that way, or am I?
Yes.
No, you're correct.
Yeah, I agree with you, and part of that, I think too, unless I'm off base with this, but Patrick touched on it a bit as far as parcels and interested local developers. You know, we've worked through a lot of that too, and I think all of that groundwork and what we have to date, I don't know how useful that would be to Patrick, but we've got some really good information and diagrams and pictures and thoughts and notes and everything to pull that all together. And I think just the fact Nick brought it up at our last meeting is that we went through our non-use controls that were so close in nature, very little differences, and that really solidified and built a framework, like a platform for us to bounce off of now going forward. So I think a lot of the elements are all there, like Baker said, and it's just you pulling those together for us and how much of that you want from us.
All of that would be helpful, frankly, to see what the current state of proposals are in the area.
So if there's an issue with regard to a lot of our community members feel that parking is going to be an issue with regard to the development here, and there are areas that, and you provided us with this map, which I'm holding up, but you can't see me, but after we have our kickoff listening trip and you analyze the maps and et cetera, that as you have proposed here, do you redraw this to put areas in different, you know, focal points, like because in looking at the map that you provided to us.
This is our map. This is our
Oh, I
map.
thought
We provided
this
this
is
to
our
him.
map.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is our map.
okay. But would you redraw, like, the parcels and place these in areas where it would be less intrusive and more of a, where we're not utilizing prime property for a parking lot or something like that? Is that something that you would be providing us as well in the master plan?
Yes. So first I draw what exists, roads, buildings, right? Things that are already in the ground. The next level is you draw in proposals, which I assume you're mentioning, that are pretty well down the road, down the track, and that appear to be, I want to say imminent, but might break ground in the next couple of years, you know, we're headed that direction. So I draw them in the next level. And then the third level is kind of all the missing puzzle pieces that stitch everything together, right? And what could be. So it's really putting it all, the past, the present, and the future, in a sense, all on one drawing.
So just for myself, so I'm clear, Patrick, and what you and Baker may have talked about in that, when we kicked this off originally, this really all started with the western part, like south of Timberline, or north of Timberline and to the west. And we thought that area would be the area of development with the overall theme and needs spilling out into the rest of the park. So you'll be focusing, because we have a lot of people interested in that area for housing, but as we talked last time, these areas and parcels, which we don't have mapped out right now other than by a couple acres here and there based on the current districts, don't have to exist, right? Because we're going to be blending things more, and there'll be more things working together versus separated in a certain area of the park. So are we going to start with like a focus in that corner and move it across the park, or what? It's not a very good question, but I'm you know where I'm trying to go with that. It's like we talked about, because housing was the biggest thing, and housing is situated for back in this area the way it's currently zoned, and we have a lot of developers that are interested in that, local or possibly otherwise. But then the rest of this park, and if we eventually get down to one district and limit controls or uses. So how do you address that, or how would you, or are you gonna just go for the whole thing and make it blend? Are you, I mean, will there be sub-phases, I guess, maybe on?
Yeah, so the area you're referring to, so the whole study area itself is this 250 acre map that you sent me previously, correct? That's labeled Rome Town Center.
Right,
And so you have areas, I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar, but you have areas close to the town center and splash pad. And it seems like more of that has been kind of figured out. And then as you move west towards 13th Avenue, less so has been figured out. Is that the right understanding?
correct.
Okay. Yeah. So there would be, in the implementation kind of very short report, right? I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I would recommend sequencing, like
Okay,
put in this
that's-
street, then develop this parcel, or like, a menu for the town.
Got
Put
it.
this parcel out for RFQ, then this parcel, and then this parcel, right?
Got it. Okay, that's where I was trying to go with that, probably too wordy, but we would sequence this in, you'll come up with a plan and we would sequence it in as we're ready to develop. And while we're looking at that map, just one quick note, the road that's running east and west is on our schedule to be completed this year. But the road that's running north and south, that's dividing up those bigger parcels in the back, Patrick, the road, the town at this time has no intention of putting those roads in. So if those are something that would come down the pike later on, but don't plan it, I mean, you're gonna put in your plan in place, but there's no existing road there right now. So,
Oh, I see.
do you know what I'm trying to
Yes.
say? Okay.
Yeah, so we're continuing
Yeah,
Timberline, but there's not really a plan for the other one.
Yeah, for Vienna, I think that's
Vienna, yeah.
Vienna, so that road is not, so don't let that skew anything you might have in your thought process to help us frame out what would go in those areas.
Okay, and yeah, I would propose a street network that I think makes the most sense with what development may occur or would occur under the right circumstances in the future.
That's excellent.
So they would kind of
thanks.
dovetail together.
The kickoff listening trip, do you have like a time frame as far as when you would like to do something like that?
Yes, I don't mean to put the question back on you a little bit. I mean, I can move, once we get under contract and all that, as fast as we need to. The only thing, as far as scheduling that is concerned, is you want to give folks enough time to put it on their calendars, right?
Yeah, and I think, sorry to cut you off, Patrick, so a couple things. One, I can't remember where we are, sorry, how much we've shared of some of the kind of preliminary work we've done with the wants and needs with the Pinterest stuff. Have we shared that with Patrick yet or no?
No.
No, he didn't.
So some of that is part of that, will help make that initial session really productive, so we're not starting from scratch. So the more we can share with Patrick to digest, and then I think if you guys are open to it, this would be a really great time to potentially bring Michael in to engage, if that's possible. So those are just my two thoughts on that.
At this time, I guess, I mean, the thought process that, I know Nick and I had kind of talked about is we wanted to give Patrick some of his own clarity coming into this project. So we provided the comprehensive plan, the Rome Town Center design plan, the code for the Rome Town Center, and then the implementation recommendations from Sam, so the 15 recommendation document. That is what we have provided him with to just go off of for right now, just so he gets kind of the broad overview of what we're working with before we start giving him more detailed things that we've worked with, just so Patrick can have his own idea of what the Rome Town Center is and can formulate his own opinions before we start pushing.
But I think what Baker's
Yes.
weighing in on is he's saying that we've gotten there, Patrick's
Yes.
taken a look at those so I agree with you, yes. So we've given him the documents Baker he originally requested, and we certainly have everything in place that we can give that to him ahead of time before he meets with us or whenever, so yeah, we're to that next phase.
Yeah, I think it's at Patrick's schedule. I would only say that we call those sometimes the inspirational, and I think
Yes.
we've done some good lifting on that through our meetings. So whenever we're ready, and it's on Patrick's schedule, but I think as he starts to formulate, like, we're not spending time on stuff that we are, we've tried to narrow it down as best we can. And so, and I'm all about trying to make the meeting with Patrick, if he's gonna come from Minneapolis, as efficient as possible to get as much as we can out. So, you know, we looked at gates, we looked at cobblestone, you know, just to get, and those are all inspirational. He'll digest that, I assume, and hopefully come to us with things that work and don't work, or all, and everything in between. So whenever we're ready, I just was letting, you know, the group know, and mostly Patrick, that we've done a little bit of the lifting in terms of that original first jump off charrette, that it doesn't have to start from scratch. A lot of that inspirational stuff that, you know, in the imagery, we've tried to narrow that.
That's a very good point, Baker, and like we've said in our previous meetings, Patrick, is that a lot of that stuff is actually building off what was done, you know, 6-7 years ago already. So if you want those documents, we have them, we can send them off to you, we have pictures, we have everything else. So that's something you want ahead of time. I mean, like you said, we've already done a lot of the heavy lifting, and it's been pretty agreeable among our group here of a common theme that's carried over from when the original plan was done years ago. So if those are helpful to you, so we're not starting from scratch, and we use your time wisely.
What would you call that? Like a visioning? What's
vision board.
Yeah, it's like a vision
vision
board
board.
with wants and needs.
Vision
Baker, what did you refer to our wants and needs as? A programming
Yeah,
list.
it's
Your
like a
programming
vision
list.
board or a mood board or a, you know, inspirational, you know, imagery.
Yep.
You know, like, you know, we aspire to look like, I don't know, Jackson Hole or whatever, you know, whatever the, you know, we spent a whole hour going through everybody thinking about it on their own and then kind of narrowing the goods and the bads. I think some point in the near future, we would want to share that so that
Yeah.
he can start to frame sort of the look and feel of what the plan's gonna look like.
Yeah, like
So,
we have on there, oh, sorry, Patrick, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say that I think this kind of needs and wants visions would be good to see. But then the second thing is, I appreciate the kind of don't show certain things because you want me to kind of come in with a clean slate and not be impacted so much to speak, like a true second opinion. But even if you share those images with me, I will still probably formulate my own opinions. I guess, you know, that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I wouldn't, it shouldn't scare you to send it my way, I guess is what I'm saying.
It was made very clear that the absolute must is a rooftop bar.
So as long as you,
Everybody can,
We don't care if there's a road there, as long as there's
There's
a
a
rooftop
rooftop
bar. That
bar.
was made very clear through this visioning section.
yeah. Did you, I think this original question was about kind of the next steps, like time-wise, right?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, so before the weekend, I would send you the revised proposal. I'll do that probably tomorrow morning. Tweak it, send it your way. You can review it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And if you say, yep, this looks good, we can kind of get under contract and move forward next week. And then a first kind of listening trip, probably 2 to 3 weeks after that, because you just want to give people time to, you know, put it on their schedules, and then me a little bit of time to review some things and prep. So that would probably put that first trip mid to late February, like 19, 20, 21-ish, somewhere in there.
Okay, we'll put those on our calendar then. And that's for you to meet with this group as well as,
Business owners, local developers, town departments, and other groups.
Yeah, and in my revised, I'm still gonna do the community open house, but I had that as a trip like a week or two later. I would just combine all of that into one trip, you know?
that would make sense.
Easy.
I could see, rather than having you make 2 trips here, if you can accomplish all of that, because again, like Baker said, we did, and you want to we want to see what your vision is for it. Ours is just to give you a taste of what what's been looked at in the past and currently.
So this would be mid-Feb.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea if you spend all of that time with people in the community, they get to know you, they get to know the product, they get to know us, and it's transparent and they understand what it is we're trying to accomplish.
So
here.
we'll have 2 meetings. We'll have the basically the stakeholder, et cetera, developer one, and then we will also have one for the community. Correct?
Does that sound correct, Patrick? Yeah.
That sounds correct. So during the day, we would tour and meet with the stakeholders, and then, from 5 to 7 or 4 to 6 or whatever time of the evening makes the most sense for people, we'd host that open house.
Which we need to budget for food and refreshments. It says it
I
right
thought you were
here.
paying.
I'm not paying. I am
Always
a,
have to,
I'm a
you'd
pain.
start-
Well, and then I think, is there also a meeting where this committee meets with you directly as well? I mean, is that sort of as a development team? I mean, is that a third meeting, or is that part of that same, or does that all come out? I mean, Patrick, you know better than I do, because you've dealt with the communities. Obviously, if this were Sand Valley, we would just be all in the same room for a day and kind of batter all these ideas around. So I'm a little less experienced when working with a municipality.
Yeah, so how that trip would really lay out is, I arrive there in the morning, we would meet I'm calling the subcommittee kind of the client team, we're kind of the internal
Yep.
team, right? We would
Yeah.
meet, we would talk about the agenda for the trip and, later trips at a high level. We would tour the site together, and then we would block out the afternoon, essentially, 4 or 5 hours to meet with these stakeholder groups. You would help me identify who I should talk to. And then at the end of the evening, it'd be a long day, but at the end of the day, we host that open house, and that's kind of the day. Because the first thing in the morning is you kind of help me say, watch out for this, this, and this. We're meeting with these people. And give me a little bit of the background on who we might be meeting with and what I should, look out for, so to speak.
So you would want these groups segregated out and meet with them rather than collectively?
And do a few different groups, and you could help me determine what personalities might work well in certain groups. Like, for example, all the developers would probably meet as one group because they have the same, they just have the same kind of goals, right?
But we don't have a lot of developers. Not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but it's not like, I think that might be a little bit why I might be struggling too, is we
No,
don't
there's a
have.
lot. Because, if you look at our
We have
page.
We have businesses, we've had developers come in, but
And when I asked them that question, that's what I was asking, is we would look at the past people that have contacted zoning and asked about
okay, so you
the
want.
RTC, so that would be that, like,
Well-
I immediately was thinking of
Well-
my guy who's building the houses,
Yes,
that was
okay.
interesting in here, so those would be the kinds of developers we would be meeting with.
Okay.
Right.
That wouldn't really be feasible because I don't have a list of that. But what I'm saying is we do have on our website, we have quite a business directory. And in our,
That's businesses are separate though.
no, but what I'm saying is we do have in that we have things chunked apart into groups though. And we could find groupings that are similar and then we can in those groups, because every single one of these, I have their addresses, I have everything to have business license.
I know what's on that list and I understand where you're, construction people and that, but I think
Yes.
when we're
Yeah.
talking developers, we're talking
Yeah.
people that do it from beginning to end, that have a vision with a viable project. That's the way I perceive a developer, not a construction, and not meaning them any slight, but
Yeah.
not a construction worker, not a gravel operator, not a concrete person. Those are businesses, and that to me would be a business stakeholder.
Well, it
Or
wouldn't
the-
just be in the town of Rome. There's also going to probably be developers that might be in Rapids, maybe even in Stevens Point, that would potentially come to Rome because they'd want to develop
Well,
in
we
Rome
don't know who
too.
they, okay, so maybe help us here. I think we're all kind of maybe just a little confused and struggling here.
Yeah, so, okay. The idea is that these stakeholder groups, there's really a size to it also. I would say
Right.
8 to 10, maybe 12 people in
Right.
each meeting. Could be less. Because when you put everybody in one group, let's say it's a 25-person meeting, people are just hesitant to talk because it's so many people. And when you break them down into smaller groups, people are more likely to give honest feedback, just human nature.
Correct.
So if you have let's say from 1 to 2, you meet with these developers. It could only be 3 of them. It could be a meeting with 6 people. Totally fine. Smaller is not bad. And then from 2:30 to 3:30, you meet with the existing business owners in and around the square, right? Maybe it's only 3 or 4. Because they have different concerns than the developer, right? They're operating a business day to day. They have, how will parking impact my business? How will road shut down and built, right? They have different questions than a developer has. And then Parks and Rec, I'm just using general examples here. And Public Works have different questions about road widths, right? Everybody kind of has a different focus, so it's more efficient too on your time to pool them together because they share concerns.
Okay.
And the groups are smaller and they're just more free flowing. hope I didn't confuse anyone. Hopefully I made it.
No,
easier.
that actually really helped, and I think it does kind of go back to what we were, because then it made me realize what you were, and not what Lexi, those are businesses in the town, there may be business, but I don't know, that we even want to open this up to communities outside of Rome yet, we're not there yet, because
For-
those would be RFPs we put out for development.
But for the developers meeting, and that's what I had asked before, and that's what that would be from my understanding, is for developers, so, you know, I'm thinking of my gentleman back here that has
Right.
asked me about developing specifically in the residential area here, or past people that may have come in front of the committee before. Those kinds of people that would be in that developers group, and we would only need a smaller group. You know, say there's somebody who's been doing development in Rapids, and we want to invite them here because maybe that's somebody that we would want to send an RFP
Yeah.
to in the future. Is that line of thinking correct on the developer group? Or am I way off base on that? That's a good possibility.
Well, it's almost like now there's kind of like two groups, because there's developers that are already active in the town, right? And then there are developers that might on in from the larger region if we set the vision the right way. Does that make sense?
I think the only thing that might be causing a little confusion is that we don't have developers in the town. Like
We do though.
do we?
Yes, there
Like-
are are businesses that are developers in the
There
town.
are a few.
There are
Yes.
some. There
Are
are
they-
multiple. There
Yeah, there are
a
a
lot.
few, but again, he said to keep them small, but you said you didn't have well, we'll get through it, but
I do.
Are they,
think
are they
it's,
developers that want to develop the town center, or are they, like, what is the definition?
Yeah,
I guess,
that's where
maybe,
I'm-
of a
I
developer?
think we should have a subcommittee discussion on those groups.
yes, I think
Yeah.
instead
Next
of wasting
agenda.
Patrick's time, we'll discuss that with Lexi and see who she has in mind, and we can narrow that down to potential developers, and because I might be wrong at that, but I also see us, you know, if we put out an RFP, we're gonna get responses maybe from Point, Wausau, Appleton, Milwaukee area.
But that's
who
when
knows?
you're sending out an RFP. That's got nothing to do
Exactly.
with
Right.
visioning of the Rome Town Center,
And I
as
go-
far as I'm concerned.
Right, and when we go back to what Baker said at one of our meetings, it's like, is it a viable project? Is it something they're really capable of putting in on the land we have left to sell? So that's why we have to narrow it down as well.
That's down the road.
No, that's
So these-
finding developers to invite.
No.
Yeah, that's what she
So the
said.
developers, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all right.
That's why we need a discussion.
Yeah, the developers that maybe might, even a two-story building that is only 2,000 square feet, that's a developer, right? Big or small. They don't have to be developing 100 units at a time. So even the developers, the local ones, 2 or 3, that have small projects in the area, they can be a group. And then we create a vision, and we might lay out sites in a certain way, and then that gets attached to the RFP or RFQ that goes out to developers, so that they have some idea. So it's a good two-way street. We set the vision, all right, it's based in reality and on community input, and then they respond to it, and they have a roadmap for what they want to build, right? So it kind of helps
Setting your vision.
both entities a little bit.
What did
So
you
then-
say? Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear. He was,
You don't want a lot of developers setting up your vision.
no.
Yeah.
So then, are we specifically, so if we have developers that have business in Rome, not necessarily in the town center, but just developers that live and or work within Rome, is that what we're looking for in developers, or are we specifically looking for this group to invite a couple of developers that have interest specifically in building in the town center?
Probably the first one.
So anyone who lives and or works in Rome, not necessarily.
How many people would that be, do you think?
We're looking at you, Lexi. You're on the
Well,
spot.
I think about the fellow you've got back here that developed an entire subdivision, including the roads, which the town just took a road back from him, and we're now responsible.
What about someone like Plato?
Exactly.
What
So
about
there's people-
someone like
There's people
Plato?
like Plato, 'cause Plato is still developing stuff. He's
He
not
is
developing the
developing,
Rome
so
Town
Plato
Center.
would be- he's two, actually, he's a developer
And
and
then
a
these
business
folks
owner.
across the street that
Yes,
just put in
because
this
he's still
retail.
developing.
right.
I still get
So
permits
I-
from him regularly for him developing
I'm
in
not
Rome.
excluding him,
We
yeah,
could
Plato.
probably have at least 4 or 5. I would suspect.
There's more than that, because there's
Even more.
developers who don't
So
develop in
we do-
Rumtown Center.
We do have people available that would meet that first
I
criteria.
still think we
Absolutely.
should have a subcommittee meeting that defines this out and not waste our time here today.
Yes,
That's why
I
think
agree.
It's just
I
getting
agree.
too into it. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot.
Yeah, but I think just to answer his question, I mean, Lexi, just off the top of your head, is that a long list of people that are, it sounds like there's at least a good handful maybe of like Plato and,
I would have to go through zoning permits and see who I'm regularly seeing permits from, but I mean, I could realistically, it could be a long list. I mean, I'd
Okay.
have to see.
yeah.
Okay, well, then we have someone to choose from, okay.
Yep, okay.
Done and done.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are there other questions we should have?
I don't think so.
Just one comment, and I thought that the participation that you've included in this proposal is just right on target. I thought it was very good. I don't think we need any more, and I think the whole proposal is worth accepting.
Yeah. And understanding that's my question, understanding from the town perspective, Sand Valley has donated a portion of this with you. The agreement would be between you and their representatives, not with the town, correct?
Baker, do you want to?
Yeah, no, that's a great, I don't know if Nick is there or not, but like, I think from here, we would, I think for this, getting us through this first bit, we would just contract with Patrick directly and pay the bill, and if that's all right with the town, we can just do it that way, and then as we get further along, and you guys want to continue to work with Patrick, he can reform like the next steps, proposal for future work.
And to
As
answer
needed.
your question, Baker, that would be the first meeting would be a good time to include Michael.
Yes. I think that would be really good, and,
Yeah, I mean, I think at least for part of that, I don't know if he'll come all day, but if we're gonna have a sit down and kind of talk
Right.
about where you guys want to end up and ideas, I think that's where Michael does his best work.
and the board has already the town board has already voted to proceed with this when you presented it that evening, so there's nothing that prevents you now from moving on to that next step with your agreement with
So I
Patrick.
just want to make sure we're, just from a legal standpoint, we're okay to sign the contract and just do
Yes.
it with Patrick.
And I believe Nick already covered that, but we can have a conversation with him offline and just
Okay,
double check.
yeah,
But I believe he's
perfect.
already said yes, A-okay to that, and with the
Okay.
town board approval.
That's fine, I didn't remember that, but that's fine. If
That's
that's
okay.
the case, then we'll move it forward with Patrick directly in the board.
Okay. Thanks, Baker. Thanks, Nick. I know you're in that black void somewhere.
No, he's not here today, unfortunately,
Oh.
but
I can't quite put the voices to people's faces, so I'm kind of
That's all
guessing
right.
who's here.
I have a question about the open house that we would do in the evening, towards that third-ish week of February. How does that look? I'm just I'm a planner. Like a legit event planner, so that's where my brain is going. So I'm just wondering, how does that look? Are we just here and answering questions? Is it just as people come in, or is it a formal people come in, sit down? Are we offering a refreshment?
And a whiteboard for them to write on.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. That's a great question. So, yeah, this proposal has those two open houses, right? One for listening and one kind of showing the vision, so to speak. So in the first one, 2 or 3 hours, and it's more listening. And there's usually food and drinks, just, because you gotta incentivize people to get out of their house, right? So that kind of thing always helps. But that first open house is really me not doing so much of the talking. It's not really a formal presentation because there's nothing really to present yet, right? We're trying to hear from you, so we're not. We're trying to collect feedback. And that's taken a whole bunch of different forms. And I'll work with you to develop the posters that go up around the room. So I imagine people can come in at any time, when they're off work, and they can circulate around the room. They visit stations, and it's kind of a combination of visual preference surveys. What's your big idea for the town? What do you like? What do you not like? It's very open-ended questions, and maybe a series of a few stations, which have taken on a whole different form all over the place. But it would be something like that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
It's it's more of an open house kind of a thematic.
I went through one of those with the school district. It sounds very similar to that, like they did in Nakusa, so.
Okay.
And there's really no formal presentation, but if the questions though will be directed to you, correct? And we might just be playing host and hostesses for the evening and getting people through this entire process.
Correct, yeah, and I would answer questions about this process, and, the city would answer questions about maybe how it fits in with other larger processes too, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, all of, us and you would be there, and we would be able to answer people's questions, right, and kind of dispel any, people just don't like uncertainty, I think, and it just gives them an avenue to ask questions and have their voices heard.
That's perfect, thank you. My mind has everything properly planned now.
Is it in your calendar?
Nope, not yet, it's gotta be. Otherwise it won't happen.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Patrick, or? That's my last one.
I'm done.
No, this looks really amazing, and it's really very helpful, and it's giving us some real solid steps to move forward with really accomplishing hopefully what'll be a good outcome for that Rome Town Center once and for all, because once we get, that sold and on the tax rolls, it'll be a benefit to the town as well. As a quality of life thing we have here, something to draw people and the tax revenue. So, thank you very, very much. Is there, we'll make sure we'll get you what we have that Baker, teed up for us, and, Baker, I'll get, I'll double check with Nick real quick, but I believe that he said that the last meeting and when we've talked,
Okay.
so you're fine to proceed because you're the one signing the check, so the rest of it would
Yep,
come.
that's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure that I was aligned with Nick on it, so.
Yep,
If
you
you
are.
wanna talk to him and get back to me, that's great, or I can reach out to him, let me know.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else for Patrick? And nope. All right, I think we might have a discussion after this, just on some of the things that came up about developers and who we might want to invite to those smaller groups. And I think that's right. If the groups get too large, it gets overwhelming. People don't get questions, or they don't ask questions because they're uncomfortable. So I think we can narrow that down ourselves.
Okay, yeah, no, I can, if we have a follow-up call, I think there's one scheduled next week, we can, as we get closer, we can work through specifics on who's meeting him. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, it's
Keep
nice
an
to
eye
you.
out for a shorter revised proposal before the weekend.
Okay,
Sounds
Perfect.
great.
thank you so
Super.
much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Baker, are you staying with us, or do you gotta go?
I have to jump, but if there's anything you want to talk to me about specifically, I got another couple of minutes before I gotta get on another call.
No, just if you had any ideas about specific developers that maybe you've worked with, but you're the developer, so it's more like contractors
Yeah, I
that
mean,
you've worked with.
I don't know, I mean, I would say, if people are interested in the if they've shown interest in the Rome Town Center, and those people that have applied, we put on hold that I think have been out there, those are the people that you may wanna get some input from. And then I think down the road, once you have the plan, then you can go to the RFP, and people from all over Wisconsin, all over the country may wanna develop Rome, right? So,
Right,
those are the two differentials, I would say, and then I think the other key, the group that I think we're most interested for, I think the open house is for anybody in the public, it's those business owners in town that you need to buy in from, more so than the developer groups, right?
Yes.
There aren't like 10 named developers like a Dream Golf, or, I've used that name, but like, whoever it is, Walsh Construction from Chicago, that are asking to do the Rome Town Center right now. So to me, if there's a small group of people that have asked specifically about developing the town center, those are people that you would maybe want to have even if it's just two of them, just get them input from them. And then I think the key group to me is those business owners, because they're talking to each other, they're talking to their clients, customers, whatever it may be. That's the buy-in group. And then I think obviously the public, you're going to have mixed reviews, but we all know how that goes.
Yeah.
okay, that sounds good.
But, again, if that list is longer and there's more developers that, I don't know. I don't know who's been asking to develop around the Rome Town. If they want to do a, development out next to Sand Valley for 50 lots, I would say they're not as important to get input from on the town center, right? So just try to narrow that input loop, that feedback loop down as best you can.
I think that's a good point. That's where I was trying to go with it too, and
Yeah.
then you helped me understand it better too. So I think that's very good, helpful input. Thank you very much, Baker. I'll get back to you on that question from Nick.
All right, guys.
But I think.
Talk soon.
All right.
Take care, Baker.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I can see, I can see Plato. I can see, it's Corey, right? Or Cody? Corey,
Cody is the one who did the roads, and then, Tom Town is the one who's actually developing.
Okay, so
Town construction does a lot of stuff.
Who does?
Town construction.
Town construction.
Yeah.
Just town.
Yeah.
Here's my issue though, if we start inviting individual people, someone doesn't get invited, that's a problem.
Their nose gets out of joint?
We can't help that.
Yeah.
We can't
So
help
the
it.
best-
We're
I think the answer-
developing focus groups, and we have every right to choose who
Yeah.
attends those focus groups.
Yeah, and I
And if
think,
their nose is out of shape, we'll deal with it.
yeah,
We'll deal
because
with it.
we don't want
We'll
to
send
have
Tiffany.
somebody.
We don't,
yeah.
we're not gonna have, we don't want half of the
I
businesses in
sound
town.
tough.
at
I'm
this
not.
table. And I can think
Makes
of a
it
couple
only
that
cry
at
first.
least one at the table.
Yeah, that town, and then what about these fellows that developed this retail center over there? You know, and they, and Baker touched on it too, the businesses that are already in the RTC or
Yeah,
businesses
you mean,
that
you're
have
talking
built.
about, Heartland Homes?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have any problem with them coming in.
as a developer.
Either as a
they've
developer
found-
or as a business close to Rome Town Center.
Yeah, either one would be good.
I would use them
I-
as a business rather than a developer.
Mhm.
They're developing their property, they're not developers per se.
But they have done subdivisions, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe not, but,
I don't know.
Yeah, they have done stuff in a different area, and I forget what municipality that was.
You can
I was
get them,
talking-
you can get them either way.
Yeah.
But that's
In
our
either
next
group.
agenda. We
Yeah.
need to put it as an agenda item and not discuss it today.
correct.
Because it's
Yeah.
not, we don't have it on our agenda for this meeting.
Well,
Is
we
that
kinda-
something we
I mean,
can
we're
do
looking at the
within an
scope of
hour?
this outline though,
Right,
and that's
but
part
we're,
of the
but
scope of the
now
outline.
you're starting to get into, you're starting to get into specifics about that, and we don't
I
have that.
understand that, Bill.
Well, that's
I
next week.
understand
We've
that,
got the
Bill.
meeting for next week.
That's why we have a meeting set up for next week.
Right, and that's all I'm saying is put it on the agenda for next week.
Should we maybe as our homework for that, because we only have an hour and then CDA meets at 3. So should we maybe as our homework for that, kind of put together our individual thoughts of who should be in the 3 main groups, the developer group, the business group, and then, or were those really the 2, because then it's.
It's
public,
looking like
right?
CDA is not very
The
likely to
town
meet.
departments.
Oh,
Why?
okay.
Because
Nothing to do,
well,
maybe?
there's not very much to do and
Oh, Park Rec.
I'm not getting very much back on an agenda, and if I don't get an approved agenda, I can't have a meeting.
Yeah, so developers was one group, current business owners was the second, and then he had mentioned like
Parks and
Parks
Rec,
and Rec,
Public
Public Works would be a
Town
third group.
departments,
Yeah, so should we maybe as part of our pre-work for that meeting, come in kind of with our thoughts on who individually within for those 3 groups, and then we can kind of combine those and combine thoughts with that. Make some headway a little bit.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because I do think there's some merit to that, because, you know, we've all been parts of different groups that have succeeded or failed, and we know what works and doesn't work, and he really
Yeah.
touched on it, and
Yeah.
you get overwhelmed with too many people that either don't want to ask questions, so nothing's asked,
Right.
or, you know,
And we don't want to, like, you know, Bill said, we have the right to, it's a focus group, and so we have the right to not invite somebody. We don't want to bring somebody in who's going to slow progress down. So if we bring in somebody
Sure.
who we know is just difficult to be difficult, and that won't bring a solution and something fruitful to the focus group, we don't want to have them there.
We may have to include one,
I could see a separate meeting for that.
Mhm.
yeah.
Because it's, the open house in the evening is for everybody.
I think
Yeah.
we need to talk to Nick, because I think we still have to have a justifiable reason why we are or not including people, and I think we still have to
Because
have a cross.
it's a focus group, and
It's
the
a
focus
focus
group
group,
is
Yes,
not
you're
but-
making
a
it more
great big meeting.
difficult than it needs to be, and I think
Okay.
you're setting us up for Nick
I-
wouldn't counsel, and Nick is now $150, and, you know, so.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. I think because I think if we're gonna have a focus group, we need to have a vetting process of how we are choosing people that makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Or-
our
That's
next
what we're gonna
agenda.
do at our next
That's exactly
agenda,
what I'm
Lexi.
saying.
And Nick will probably be here for that meeting.
You do need to have a vetting process.
Yes, that's what I'm not saying. We can't just go, oh, this person built here, this person built, like,
No.
there needs to either be some
No,
sort of,
That's why we need it on our next agenda.
yes. Ridiculous, okay. Anything else on the agenda?
What are we gonna serve for food and beverages?
What are you baking?
Let me see what we have in petty cash.
I would imagine maybe setting the solid dates with Patrick
Yeah.
for the 19th, 20th, and 21st. Like he had kind of mentioned those dates.
One thing is to make sure Michael's available,
Yeah.
and I would set it based on those two individuals available.
We should have asked Baker, but I'll double check with Baker and get those dates set with him for Michael to join us.
Because you don't want to exclude the guy that's paying.
Yeah.
I think we should set up the time frame for each one of these groups as well. Who's gonna go first, how long we're gonna have those groups.
Yeah. We do
I-
need to take him out for lunch while he's here. I mean, that's part of that visitation route.
Yeah, we would take them both. We'd take them both, all three of them, but,
Lunch and a beer.
yeah.
Okay. Available during
We'll have a
that.
food truck over, never mind.
I like
But
where you're
I
going.
don't know about, we could find out, you know, how much we have available, and, you know, we can either think light food or light sandwiches or something.
I wouldn't even go that far.
Yeah, just,
Cookies and punch or something like that. Nothing, no meal. You know, if you want to do something in the afternoon, same thing. Cookies or something like that.
Are you talking about for the open house?
Yeah.
I'm talking
The
about for an
open
open
house.
house.
Oh, no, we're
Not-
talking
not a
about
meal.
for the,
Not a meal for open house.
the first,
Oh,
I'm
the first three?
I'm talking about the kickoff listening trip.
well, it's all the same day, he said now.
It's all the same. It's all going to happen on
Oh,
one
he is
day.
also going,
Yeah, he
can
said
do that
all
that
the
night?
same.
All going to
Yeah.
happen on one day.
So he's gonna be with us.
If you want to
in-
have a plan to feed Patrick in between one of the meetings.
Well, and Michael's gonna be there
And,
as well.
that's- Yeah,
I mean,
And quite frankly, Michael is a developer as well, so if
Yes.
he's there,
that's.
I don't think we need to vet Michael, but we'll get to that in our next meeting.
okay, so then, our homework would be,
Getting lists of people.
For the groups. Set dates and timeframes for Pat's visit.
what kind of vetting process we should be thinking about next week.
Do all the people in Parks and Rec still work during the day?
Yes, they do, and when they're going into departments, it would probably be like Cody.
Yeah.
When you say Parks and Rec, we've got the chair of that committee is a board member, so Dan
Mhm.
Minter would be there, so
Yeah.
he would represent that group.
Right.
I would anticipate that, unless somebody else can meet. But again, we're having an open house in the evening where everybody can be there for the
Right.
questioning.
That's-
These little focus groups around a table are the ones where you're gonna get down into some really whatever. But then when you get to the larger open house, very similar to what they did with the Daily Tribune building, that's when it gets larger, you get more questions answered, you get stickies up on the wall kind of thing.
And what I'm picturing is, if you want something, put it on a sticky note, throw it on the whiteboard. And then that's what we did the first time around, remember?
Mhm.
And there's a
Yeah.
picture of it in our design manual. Same thing is gonna happen. I want a drugstore. I want a car wash. I can tell you already what's gonna go up there.
Is Sam gonna be coming to this as well?
I can find out if he's available.
Is it necessary?
I don't know.
Okay.
But, you know,
I
but
would
I
only
mean, I don't
invite
think,
him, I
quite
wouldn't ask
frankly,
him to attend, I would invite him to attend, if he'd like to
That's-
attend. How's that for the open house?
but I don't see it's really necessary at this
No.
phase, because Sam himself even said in that blurb we had on our presentation to the town board, and, was that, you know, he's there when we're ready for him, and I don't think we're ready for him yet. He helps us get into the nitty gritty as we start to cross over into phase two.
Yeah, I think everybody's eyes would glaze back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which-
This is Patrick's show, I think, and
And our next meeting is when?
We have it down for,
Wednesday?
yeah, at
At
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock?
He, and Patrick commented twice, I believe, that he wants to know ahead of time the people that are coming and
If there's
There-
anybody that he has to watch out for.
that he needs to watch out for and give him a heads up on.
Interactivity.
Exactly. And I think we need to be because he did say it
Yes,
twice.
yes, he
I
did.
think he's quite
Well,
concerned.
he wants, yeah,
He doesn't want to make anybody
well,
go ballistic, I think, on.
yeah, I'm not gonna use names or things, that's for next discussion.
Okay.
But yeah, those, I
But-
get that.
but you can't-
He can prepare for
Yes.
where that certain conversation is likely
May
to
go.
go, and he can prepare for that and prepare to downplay that with those individuals.
You don't want that to sink the rest of the conversation of progress.
Well, he's enough of a facilitator that he won't let someone take over the meeting. He won't let him take over the focus group. He just wants to know who it is that's gonna try. That's what he's asking.
Well, and then how to circumvent it getting to a point where it becomes,
Conflict,
Do we want to keep these other dates open
Confrontation.
just in case, though,
Yes.
for Monday the 10th, at 11 a.m. and Thursday the 13th at 10 a.m.? Just keep those tentatively on your calendars to see how we're working towards that.
Yeah.
the other thing that we need to, after next week, I think we should send out those requests for people to attend. Like the developers and, those should be sent out ASAP so that we can get those firmed
Or at
up.
least contact them in an informal way and say,
well,
Right.
please
we-
watch like
we-
a
we
save
need
the date.
And we can say, if you're
So-
possible, reserve these dates,
Yeah, save a date kind of thing.
but I don't know.
I guess we could get
Well,
into more details when we
Yeah,
build
and
our
Patrick
list.
noted that he would help with like the
Yes,
posters
he
and stuff,
did.
so I imagine that's something too that he's gonna help with, is that kind of communication of
Yeah.
that invite.
Yeah.
And I can even, pose that question for him, to him, because he did say that, not once but twice, and even in here, that he helps prepare some of those materials. He's done this before on a, different levels, so he'll probably have some ideas on how to do that and how to proceed. And maybe if I put that out to him, he can even have an answer for us by next Wednesday.
Okay. Alrighty.
Awesome.
Is our job done here?
I don't know, Lexi, you want to go through your, we kind of jumped all over
Nope, I
your
can adjourn it.
agenda.
We can adjourn at 1:32 p.m.
Done.
What was wrong with the video? Do you know?
Camera wasn't working.
The camera
It's
wasn't
not hooked in.
working, and it needed to refresh for it to work, and I
She would've
didn't.
had to shut it down and restart it.
No, I wouldn't have to restart it. I just had to refresh it, and I didn't know if I refreshed it if that would.
Cut anybody off?
So
Yeah.
what's the work shirt, like a blue denim?